It was the most pivotal night in human history. In the Garden of Gethsemane, just hours before his crucifixion, Jesus fell to the ground and prayed, "Father, if you are willing, take this cup from me, yet not my will, but yours be done." This single sentence, uttered in agony, raises profound questions. Why would Jesus, God in human flesh, plead for the cup to pass? Wasn't he supposed to be perfect? Wasn't he willingly fulfilling his mission? Well, to understand his prayer, we need to uncover the mystery behind the cup and its connection to God's ultimate plan of salvation. You see, during the Passover, Jewish families partake of 4 cups of wine, each representing a promise God made to Israel during their deliverance from Egypt. These promises are found in Exodus chapter 6. At Passover, Jewish tradition revolves around 4 cups of wine, each representing promises God made to Israel. The first, "I will bring you out from under the yoke of the Egyptians." The second promise, "I will free you from being slaves to them." The third, "I will redeem you with an outstretched arm." And the fourth, "I will take you as my own people and I will be your God." Each cup signifies a step in the redemptive process: freedom, liberation, redemption, and covenant relationship. But ancient Jewish tradition speaks of a 5th cup, the cup of wrath. Unlike the other 4, this cup represents God's righteous judgment against sin and rebellion. The idea of this 5th cup is rooted in Scripture. In Jeremiah 25, God says, "Take from my hand this cup filled with the wine of my wrath, and make all the nations to whom I send you drink it." The psalmist also writes, "In the hand of the Lord is a cup, full of foaming wine mixed with spices. He pours it out, and all the wicked of the earth drink it down to its very dregs." The rabbis debated whether this cup should be included in the Passover. Its imagery was sobering. The wine of God's wrath poured out on nations that rejected him, as it had been poured out on Pharaoh and Egypt. Over the years, the rabbis were unable to reach a consensus. The rabbis deferred the decision to Elijah, the prophet who would one day return to prepare the way for the Messiah. This unresolved question became symbolized by Elijah's cup, a ceremonial glass left untouched at every Seder table. You see, on that fateful night in Gethsemane, Jesus wasn't thinking of the 4 cups of deliverance. He was contemplating the 5th, the cup of God's wrath. As fully human, Jesus felt the weight of what this meant. Isaiah had prophesied centuries earlier. It was the Lord's will to crush him and cause him to suffer. And though the Lord makes his life an offering for sin, he will see his offspring and prolong his days. In his divine nature, Jesus knew this was his mission. Yet, in his humanity, he experienced profound anguish. This wasn't just death. It was the full force of God's righteous judgment on sin, concentrated and poured out directly on him. The prayer in Gethsemane wasn't a request to avoid the cross. It was the raw, human cry of someone facing unimaginable suffering. The cup he prayed about wasn't just physical pain or death. It was the spiritual agony of bearing the sin of the world. Paul writes in 2 Corinthians, "God made him who had no sin to be sin for us, so that in him we might become the righteousness of God." For the first time in eternity, the perfect unity between Father and Son would be broken. Jesus would experience the desolation of divine wrath, the punishment we deserved. The words, my God, why have you forsaken me?" reveal the depth of Jesus' suffering. This wasn't a failure of his divinity. It was a fulfillment of his humanity's role as our substitute. He drank the cup so we wouldn't have to. If you want to see my video on why Jesus said, my God, why have you forsaken me?" You're not going to want to miss it. Check it out. You see, John's Gospel records Jesus' final words. "It is finished." These weren't words of defeat. They were a declaration of triumph. The cup was empty. The penalty for sin was paid in full. You see, when we celebrate communion today, we don't drink from a cup of wrath. Instead, we partake in a cup of grace, a new covenant in Jesus' blood. His prayer in Gethsemane shows both his humanity and his divinity. As a man, he wrestled with the cost. As God, he embraced it willingly. So why did Jesus pray for the cup to pass? It wasn't doubt or weakness. It was a moment of profound love. His willingness to endure the cross shows the depth of his obedience and his love for us. Jesus' cry in the garden teaches us that even in moments of fear and struggle, surrendering to God's will leads to ultimate victory. We often ask, why did Jesus have to die? But the better question is, why did Jesus have to live? It's because he set an example for us on what we needed to do when he left. Think about it. He could have just came and died right away and resolved everything in a day. But he didn't, because as our rabbi, he has to be our ultimate example. So you see, because Jesus drank the fifth cup, we are offered the cup of salvation. The wrath we deserved was poured out on him, so that grace could be poured out on us. This is the mystery of the gospel. The cup he drank brings us life. The victory he won is now ours to share. So, whenever confronted with the question, well, if Jesus is God and perfect, why did he ask for that cup to be taken away? You'll have a better idea of what is actually going on. I hope this video has helped. Please, the most important thing you can do is share it and leave comments below. Let me know what you think. Give me some more video ideas. And as always, don't forget to like, give it a thumbs up, subscribe, and please turn on notifications.